Hey everyone, another week has passed, which means that today is Monday. It's Mondays with Mark Allen. It's been just over a week since I was at Ironman 70.3 Hawaii. And when I was racing, when I was done with a race, I would always look back and reflect and, say what went right, what went wrong. And since I have stopped competing, when I go to events, I kind of look at it and go, what was right about that race? What was wrong? What could they have done better? And, it can get to that point where you start to nitpick about little things that maybe for sure could have been better at an event. But I had a different perspective when I got back from the race on the Big Island, first race that I had been to in ages. I reflected and I looked, and I had the privilege of actually seeing a lot of the planning that went on to putting that race together for months and months and months as things changed with COVID. As were they going to be able to have the race? Were they going to be able to have gatherings, not gatherings? How can we, meaning the Diana Birch and her World Championship team that's based in Kona, how can we put together an experience that's still great for the athletes, even though we are going to have restrictions on gathering, restrictions on how many people can be at a particular location at one time? Agonizing decisions that had to be made. So much thought that went into it, so much energy that went into putting on the best race that could possibly be put on that day. And as I was in the days leading up to the event in my hotel room looking out at the transition area as it transformed from golf course to Ironman 70.3 Hawaii bike transition area, I saw just the hundreds of people who were volunteering their time to put together this amazing event. And then when it was all done, when the athletes were back in their hotel rooms, they were taking their showers, they were having their post-race meals. The volunteers are still out there. They're cleaning up the junk. They're picking up the little water bottle caps that people threw on the ground on the golf course. They're walking the transition area, cleaning it up so that when we all go home and go back to our places of residence, the Fairmont Orchid looks like it did when we got there, before we got there. And so why am I saying this? It's just because I just want to give a shout out to the incredible amount of energy that goes into putting on a great race, that goes into putting on any race, even if it doesn't seem great to you because of one thing or two things that maybe didn't suit what you thought could have been better. I spoke with Diana Birch, the head of Ironman World Championship events. She's the I think vice president of World Championship events, and she said, I have never put on the perfect race, and I'm searching for that. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to put that on. And that's so much like us as athletes, right? When we do an event, we have a great race, we have a great finish, but at the same time, when we're done and we reflect back, we kind of go, but I think I could do this one little thing a little bit better. And so that's what actually makes things great in this sport. We're all striving to do things better. So again, a shout out to Diana Birch for the event and her entire team that put that on. A shout out to all race directors around the world who are doing the best that they possibly can. Dave McGilvery doing things for Boston Marathon. You name it. Race directors, they don't do it for the money because it's a pain in the ass and they don't get sleep and it's stressful. Shout out to all of you. Different topic. There was a little bit of some heated discussion going on about an editorial that the editor of Triathlete magazine, Kelly O'Mara, put out for the May-June issue. She spoke about how in the editorial at the beginning of the magazine for that issue, how she was going to kind of basically trash the whole tri scene in Boulder, saying it's kind of ridiculous, and the athletes are they're running around with video teams videotaping them for their YouTube channels, and just she kind of went on and on and on about how imperfect this sort of bubble of Boulder, Colorado is. And at one point she even said it's silly. And I'm thinking, you have more world champions and world record holders in endurance sports living in Boulder, Colorado. So yeah, they have to do silly stuff, I guess, in a sense, because they have to make a living, and so much of a living these days is on social media. So you end up doing stuff that maybe years ago would have looked silly.
Yeah, Olli Katju from Finland, and I am so happy that the World Championship 70.3 will be in Finland in a couple of years, and so I'm a pro triathlete and I'm going to be ready, and I hope to take home the championship that year when it is in Finland. And until then, I am trying to bring value to the sponsors as a partner with me in my journey in triathlon, and I am so happy to have this legend helmet from Mark Allen. It is so comfortable that the other night I forgot to even take it off after my ride, and I was brushing my teeth before bed, and I look and I still have helmet on my head, so it is so comfortable. You should really try one of these things on your head, and when you take it off, you must remember it is important to give back. So give back to the Ironman Foundation when you have enough extra money to do something like that. It's very good for you. I'm a spokesperson for the Ironman Foundation, in Finland anyway. And so anyway, I have all the clothing that is important for a triathlete, and I like to wear these things because this is the Tommy Bahama Aloha thing that, it got going. It has like a perspiration type of thing where it kills bacteria on contact, so you do not smell when you finish your workout. It kills about 85% of bacteria. Anyway, must be the fish paste I eat. Anyway, and so then underneath that I got the Aloha Friday shirt. It makes you look so good, and it's got the biometric thing in there, so when you are getting low on glucose or something that maybe are a little bit dehydrated, it starts to buzz, and you can like it, and then you can take up anything and drink it. It's a good reminder for you to stay hydrated, when you're a triathlete, training a lot in the heat especially. The heat even in Finland can get pretty darn hot, you know what I'm saying? But then you must remember to sign up for races. So I always put on a shirt to remind me to sign up for races. The Ironman 70.3 Hawaii, it's going to fill up very quickly, so you better get that past that first that first whatever the thing the cheapo entry is, so it's filling up fast. And then you sign up for a race. You must always get coaching, You must get coaching from someone like Mark Allen, because he's an Ironman master coach, and, you need to be coached to be as good as me, and perhaps we will see each other in Finland in a couple of years. Okay, bye.
Yeah, well, that was silly. And anyway, back to the editorial that Kelly wrote. There's a pressure on athletes these days in endurance sports to create a buzz around everything that they're doing and to provide value to their sponsors. And it doesn't happen the way it used to when in my era, where a company would engage you. They would create ads using you in their ads to promote their products, and there was this real nice synergy that went on. Nowadays, athletes, they've got social media, and that's it. If you're not Tom Brady playing for an NFL team where all you do is you just do your sport, and basically television and everything else takes care of creating super value for you, you have to do it yourself. I mean, ultimately, maybe we should blame Mark Zuckerberg for this whole situation that a lot of triathletes are in, where last year they didn't have races. They didn't have events to go to and earn money. They had to create some kind of awareness about them, the products that they use, and value for who they are as athletes. Not an easy job. Is it silly though? I don't know. What's the definition of silly?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Buzzcut here, and I am an expert on silly. You know what I'm saying? I have defined that word. If you look it up on Wikipedia, there's a mugshot of me with a silliness next to it. But anyway, let me tell you what I think is silly. I think it is silly that they call that sport a baseball sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of the heroes is that dude Babe Ruth. He could whack that ball harder than anybody else, but he was like a smoker and a drinker, and he was kind of out of shape looking. You know what I'm saying? How can you call that a sport? A skill, yeah, maybe, but yeah, sport, I don't know. But what about golf? You got that little club in the ball, and you hit it all 100,000 miles. But there's that guy
Craig Stadler, his nickname was the Walrus, because he earned it. You know, if he was standing upright and he looked down, I don't think he could even see his feet because his belly was so big, and he won like 15 tour victories. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you call that a sport? I think that is kind of silly, but ladies and gentlemen, you know what I think is like the silliest of all? That people think it's fun when you do like a 2.4 mile swim and a 112 mile bike ride, and then you are not done yet and you go run a marathon 26.2 miles. They tried to sell me on that a couple years ago. They go like, hey, Tommy, you can do this thing. It's called like an Ironman, and you just swim a little bit, you bike a little bit, and run a little bit, and you got like 17 hours to complete the thing, and it's fully catered. There's aid stations all the place, and when you cross that finish line, it is going to be the most amazing experience of your life. And there's going to be that dude, that Iron Voice guy, that Mike O'Reilly, whatever his name is, and he's going to say, Tommy Buzzcut, you are an Ironman, and you're gonna get like tears in your eyes, and you're gonna fall on the ground and down into your knees, and you're gonna be like so happy that you completed that thing. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Tommy Buzzcut is smarter than that. That is not fun. In fact, you know, I'm kind of into that exercise thing, you know, but Tommy's rule of thumb on exercise, just exercise enough so that you look good, because otherwise you're gonna burn out. Yeah, well, maybe silly is just about perspective, right? You know, a number of years ago I gave a talk to the Colorado corn growers, and I was trying to figure out how can I make a connection with these people who grow corn in those endless miles of cornfields that I used to ride my bike through when I was training in Boulder, Colorado myself. And so I said, oh yeah, I used to live in Boulder and train there and rode through those cornfields. And they're like, oh, you lived in Boulder? 30 square miles surrounded by reality. And, you know, it kind of hit me like, yeah, Boulder, Colorado, to Kelly's point, is kind of a bubble. I mean, it is a different kind of place. But those bubbles where people gather to do something that they all have in common that elevates the level of all of them, and maybe even the level of that activity throughout the world, are super special. You know, there's probably, like I said, more world champions in endurance sports in Boulder, Colorado than anywhere else in the world. That's a unique thing, and that's pretty cool. There's other bubbles. Think about Hollywood. People acting like people that they're not even, and that's a bubble. That's not silly. That creates an art that gets elevated because they're all there creating that same thing together. Think about Silicon Valley. People speaking these languages that aren't spoken languages, they're code. And because of that code, you're watching this video right now. These bubbles are important for elevating specific activities. Boulder, Colorado is one of those for endurance sports. But to Kelly's point, partway through her editorial, she said that she was starting to write it, and she got the news that 10 people had just been killed in a mass shooting at a shopping mall in Boulder, Colorado. And she realized people are living real lives here. Maybe some of it looks silly, but at the same time, people are living real lives. And so my condolences to those who died in that shooting, to anybody who's died in any kind of a shooting like that. And it is just a reminder that beyond the personal records, the little things that went wrong in a race, the things that we would have done differently had we been the race director at an event, those are small things in the big picture, because we have life and we're alive, and we can experience another day of striving to be a little bit better at those things that we love to do. Mark Allen, we'll see you next Monday. Mondays with Mark Allen.